If you can't even clean properly, maybe you should just have an abortion. I mean, it doesn't bother me either way. How could you say such a thing? Unforgivable. Just too far. My name is Alicia. I'm in my late 30s and I'm a company worker. I've been married to my husband Kevin for 5 years now. We don't have any kids yet. When we were getting married, Kevin said, "We're not getting any younger and we both want kids, so I'd like you to stay at home and quit your job." But I just couldn't give up my current job, so we've both been working. Now Kevin understands how I feel and we're living harmoniously, sharing household chores. Even the notion of moving in with my in-laws was brought up once. My mother-in-law used to be a teacher. She said that when Kevin and I have a child, she'll help so I can continue working while raising the child. Her parents helped her when she was raising her children while working, and she wanted to pass on the support. For now, we're leaving things at, we'll think about it once we're blessed with a child. Kevin is quite dominant and expects me to follow a step behind him, especially around his family. Despite that, he is inherently kind and we maintained an equal relationship at home. Lately, my health has been less than stellar. My stomach has been upset, I've been suffering from dizzy spells, and I'm irritable. At the end of my workday, I'm exhausted and I can barely manage the household chores. Kevin has been very concerned despite being tired from his own work. He helps with my share of chores, asks me what I feel like eating, and even goes out of his way to buy it. However, my health kept deteriorating, so he said, "You should see a doctor. If it's too much to go alone, I'll accompany you." "I'm worried, please." He accompanied me to the doctor, and it turned out that I was pregnant. The cause of my poor health was morning sickness. Both Kevin and I were overjoyed at our long-awaited pregnancy. We thought this morning sickness would surely calm down soon. However, even after a month, 2 months, my morning sickness did not subside. I learned that the severity and duration of morning sickness vary greatly among individuals, and some people even suffer from it until they give birth. My health worsened day by day. I managed to go to work, but I could no longer do any housework after returning home. Seeing this, Kevin began to grow cold towards me. "Why isn't your morning sickness over yet? It's not an illness, is it? Are you pretending to suffer so you can slack off from housework?" "I don't know why either. Why would you say such terrible things? That's harsh." "My mother said she never had morning sickness. My colleagues at work said it was over quickly and they were doing housework. Alicia, you're just being lazy. If you toughen up, you won't feel morning sickness, right? You're lacking determination." I wanted to argue back at Kevin, who compared me with his mother and others, accusing me of slacking off, but I didn't have the energy to do so at the time. I was coming home from work, barely managing the household chores, while feeling dizzy and sometimes vomiting in the toilet. Kevin would finish his share of the chores, then he'd lie on the sofa, watching TV and laughing while I was desperately trying to do the housework. Even when I asked for a little help, he would say, "At least take responsibility for your own work. Morning sickness isn't an illness. If you pull yourself together, you can handle it. It's only hard because you think it is. If you're like this with morning sickness, how will you manage childcare?" And wouldn't help me. After a while, Kevin fell asleep on the sofa and his smartphone slipped from his hand. The screen showed a message asking, "Has Alicia's slacking off habit been cured?" I was furious. Using Kevin's finger while he was sleeping, I unlocked the fingerprinted protected phone and I found numerous emails from my mother-in-law in the mailbox. "Has Alicia's slacking off habit been cured? She's just using morning sickness as an excuse to slack off. She's planning to slack off in her work and housework. You have to hit her hard." "I see. I'll tell her. I've never had morning sickness at all. As long as you're careful, you'll be fine." "I see. I'll tell Alicia too." Morning sickness is nothing compared to childcare, which is 100 times harder. I'm worried about what will happen after the baby is born if she's like this now. That's troublesome. They also talked about how I was too old and questioned whether a healthy child could be born. They even suggested Kevin should remarry a younger woman who would not suffer from morning sickness and would bear a healthy child. "You don't have such a partner in mind, do you?" "Oh, if you feel like it, I'll introduce her to you, okay? Her name is Mona. She's my student and she's 25 now. She admired me and became a teacher. She's so cute. It's fulfilling and it doesn't have to be a burden on you, Kevin. If it's Mona, I think she'll definitely do it if I ask her to live with me." "I wouldn't mind if you introduced me to her." They even made plans for a meal with Mona, one of my mother-in-law's former students. Regularly, they were bad-mouthing me. I managed to take a picture of all the emails and save them when I had a chance to check Kevin's phone. I was stunned for a while and couldn't comprehend what I had seen, but I felt I understood why my husband had grown colder towards me. That day, I couldn't get out of the toilet from morning till evening. My morning sickness showed no signs of calming down, and my throat was sore from all the vomiting. I worried whether the baby in my belly was alright given my condition. Recently, I've barely been able to eat solid food, and have just been managing to stay hydrated. Feeling my limit, I was about to call Kevin from the bathroom for help when he showed up at the bathroom door by chance. I'm really suffering today. Please take me to the hospital. Maybe an IV drip will make me feel better. Why are you fussing over a little morning sickness? It's already enough. I have plans today. Please don't bother me. I remembered today he had plans to dine with my mother-in-law and Mona. I wanted to tail them, but that seemed out of the question now. I plan to go out in the evening, but seeing you, Alicia, depresses me. I'm leaving now. I can't even relax in my own house. Just keep slacking off alone, alright? Why are you always so cruel? The child inside me is ours, Kevin. Can't you cooperate or help a little? If morning sickness prevents you from even cleaning properly, maybe you should just get rid of the child. I don't really care either way. You're choosing to have this baby, Alicia, right? Then stop complaining and handle your business. Just don't burden me, okay? As I heard his words, my consciousness began to drift away. I couldn't muster any strength. When I woke up, I was in a hospital. My parents looked at me worriedly. What had happened? Apparently, when I was trying to call Kevin from the bathroom using my phone, I accidentally dialed home. My father answered the phone and overheard Kevin's harsh words. My parents rushed to our place immediately and found me collapsed alone in the bathroom. Kevin had left me unconscious and gone out. My parents quickly called an ambulance and I was taken to the hospital. Fortunately, both I and the baby were okay, but I was advised to stay in the hospital for a night just to be sure. My parents tried to reach Kevin, but he was unresponsive. He had read the messages but didn't reply. He didn't show up at the hospital that day. I told my parents everything, sobbing. I showed them all the photos from Kevin's phone. My father, deep in thought, said, "We need to talk with Kevin and his parents." The next morning, when I was about to be discharged, Kevin finally showed up in my hospital room. Kevin, grinning, said, "Seriously? What are you being hospitalized for? You just stayed one night, right? See, I told you your morning sickness isn't a big deal. Let's go home now." Kevin, wait a moment. The doctor told me something earlier. I got a medical certificate that recommends rest due to my condition. I've already contacted my workplace to take leave starting tomorrow. Oh wow, so you're slacking off from work now too? Must be nice. This morning sickness thing. Well, it makes sense. You would be a burden to everyone at work in this condition. So if you're going to be home from tomorrow, I don't need to do the chores, right? It's only fair since you're going to be home, slacking off. Kevin, have you been talking to your dad recently? Does he know about Alicia's condition? Well, no, I haven't talked to my dad recently. I do keep in touch with my mom, and I've told her about the situation, so I think she has informed my dad. Considering Alicia's situation and your current attitude, Kevin, I cannot allow her to return home. We will take Alicia in for a while. What? Don't spoil Alicia, please. Well, we are sorry, but regarding this matter, we need to apologize to your parents. We would like to visit when your father is present. Also, what happened last night? We tried contacting you multiple times. Or perhaps you were too busy with work? I wonder if Kevin noticed that my mom's eyes were not smiling even though she was. He made a tense face and said, "Okay, I understand. I'll make arrangements. Last night I was working. I've been busy recently. Excuse me." And he left the room. Then the doctor came for the final check before discharging me. After finishing the examination, the doctor explained how I should take care of myself from tomorrow onwards. He then addressed Kevin. "You're Alicia's husband, right? Alicia is going through a tough time right now, so please take care of her. Try to do the chores so that she can rest her body." To which Kevin replied, "Doctor, what are you talking about? It's just morning sickness." Well, I understand from your position you have to say that to avoid complaints, right? Don't worry, I'll make sure Alicia does what she needs to do. When we have a family meeting, my parents will surely reprimand her too. Now, if you'll excuse me. And he left. The doctor, puzzled, offered, "He seems to misunderstand something. Should I explain it to him more thoroughly?" My mother responded with a smile. "No, it's all right. We'll handle this on our end. I'm sorry for the unpleasant scene you had to witness." My parents seemed lost in quiet contemplation. A month passed and my health finally began to stabilize. The time had come to go to Kevin's family home and resolve things once and for all. That said, I hadn't been in touch with Kevin much in the months since I had returned home, and I had no idea how far things had progressed with Mona. I had no clue where the discussion would lead. I'm sorry for the inconvenience caused by my extended stay at my parents' home due to morning sickness. It's not a bother at all. Are you feeling better now? Be careful not to push yourself too hard. While my father-in-law expressed concern for my health, Kevin and my mother-in-law gave me condescending smirks. Thank you. In fact, Kevin mentioned that Alicia's morning sickness was an act of indulgence, which is distressing for us as her parents. Morning sickness as an indulgence? Kevin, did you say that? Well, isn't that right, Mom? No, it just seems to be lasting too long. You're better now, aren't you, Alicia? That's good. My mother-in-law hastily tried to end the conversation. No, we need to clarify this, mother-in-law. You are worried that Alicia, being older, might not be able to give birth to a healthy child. You plan to arrange a remarriage between your young former student and Kevin? How far have the discussions with this young... Miss Mona, was it?
progress?
What is this all about? Has my wife really said such a disrespectful thing? No, it's not like that. It was a joke, a joke.
A joke? Mom, what do you mean? We've already had a meal with Mona, and I really like her. After this, we will divorce Alicia for failing to do housework and claim alimony. Then I will marry Mona, right?
At Kevin's words, everyone fell silent. An uneasy silence filled the air. My mother-in-law turned pale, and my father-in-law was red in the face. It seems there has been some outrageous discussions happening without my knowledge. For today, please go home. I will have a proper conversation with these two. I apologize for the situation. Once again, I ended up returning to my parents' house. I felt like I might never return to that house again. A few days later, I learned a surprising fact from my father. Kevin had received disciplinary action from his company. The reason was maternity harassment. He had committed maternity harassment against a woman in his department.
It's evidence that you're slacking off if you get sick just because you're pregnant. Work is not your place to relax. If you don't want to work, then go home.
He would assign heavy lifting tasks to visibly pregnant women.
Can't you even do this? You're just a burden on the company. You should just quit already. You're a nuisance to everyone.
Apparently, it was awful. There were several victims, and they seemed to have reported him to the company's compliance department. My father, who has connections with Kevin's company, apparently got the information. Kevin said,
"But Mom taught me that. I just said what Mom said. What's wrong with that?"
I think the same way in my heart, but in public I pretend to be kind to pregnant women and worry about them if they're not feeling well. Don't you understand that? Then you knew that even if you thought so, you shouldn't say it out loud to Alicia, right? Why did you say such a thing to Kevin? Why did you do something that would lead to their divorce? Kevin seemed to understand nothing, so I thought I could guide him to divorce. I thought Mona, being young, would listen to me. She admires me after all, and I'm sure she'll agree to live with us. Alicia is just too headstrong, and I don't prefer. It seemed my mother-in-law had arranged everything behind the scenes. My father-in-law didn't know anything, and Kevin was just a pawn in her game. Afterwards, I was incessantly contacted by Kevin.
I was deceived by Mom. I was just misunderstood. I didn't know anything. Please forgive me. I will treasure you and our baby from now on.
Oh, just the other day you were telling me to get rid of this baby, weren't you? It's too late to start caring now. We're getting a divorce. Please live happily with Mona. We had this back and forth many times. Kevin's words, "just get rid of it," that I had heard while I was fainting deeply wounded my heart. It was something I simply couldn't forgive. On the other hand, I learned that Mona was not aware of Kevin's marital status and had only agreed to have dinner with him because my mother-in-law suggested it, assuring her it would avoid complications at work. Apparently, she didn't become a teacher because she admired my mother-in-law, nor did she hold any particular affection for her. When she found out about my mother-in-law's manipulation, she was genuinely shocked and looked down on her. She had just been unwittingly dragged into all of this. I was worried that getting a divorce would be difficult, but my father-in-law stepped in. He scolded and persuaded both Kevin and my mother-in-law, and we were able to finalize the divorce. I deeply regret that Kevin hurt you in such a difficult time of pregnancy. As a father, I feel extremely guilty. I am also sorry for my wife's actions and for not having monitored her properly, which caused a great deal of discomfort. He apologized from his heart. He paid for Kevin's alimony and child support in a lump sum, and apparently planned to make Kevin repay him in installments. I was able to smoothly finalize the divorce thanks to you, father-in-law. Please come visit us when the baby is born. I'd love to, but hold off for now. I need to straighten out Kevin and my wife and keep a close watch on them. Besides, if they found out I was secretly meeting you, they might go off the rails again. I don't want to expose you or my grandchild to any more danger. Kevin resigned from his job, which he had been disciplined at. He said it was too hard to stay at the company. He tried to find another job, but seemed to be having a hard time sticking to one. He's living with his mother under his father's watchful eye, and it seems he's having a rough time. Rumors about Mona's situation spread in my mother-in-law's workplace, and it seems everyone is giving her strange looks. The teaching world is a rapid turnover of school reassignments every 3 to 8 years, which apparently makes it easier for rumors to spread. Even without this rumor, my mother-in-law was already a dubious person, so people around her were likely thinking she might do something like this. I wonder if she was shocked to find out that Mona, whom she thought admired her, actually disliked her. Lately, she seems to have become very quiet at work. After safely giving birth to a girl, as expected, Kevin pleaded, "Please let me see my daughter. I have a right since I'm paying child support." I responded formally. Child support payments and visitation rights are separate legal obligations and not exchangeable. We decided during the divorce that you would pay child support and we would not have visitation. Therefore, I declined your request for a visit. After that, he stopped contacting me. However, sometimes I wonder if it was right to deprive my child of her father based on my feelings. After all, it was my mother-in-law who was the real mastermind, and Kevin was merely brainwashed. When I confessed this story to my mother, she said, "Indeed, Kevin is a kind person, but I wonder, who is he the kindest to?" If he's kindest to you and his daughter, it might be okay to let him see her. What do you think? Indeed, Kevin is kind, but he's the kindest to himself. Or rather, he's only kind to himself. That's why when I was sick and became a burden to his life, he was filled with negative feelings towards me and ended up going along with my mother-in-law's plan. I can't trust a person who pushed me away when I was weak and needed help. I might ask my daughter if she wants to meet him when she's old enough to have her own opinions. But until then, I don't plan to let her see him. My world completely changed after my daughter was born. Parenting is really fun, but it's also very challenging. I plan to take maternity leave for a while to focus on parenting, and then return to work after leaving my daughter at daycare. I decided to live at my parents' house during my maternity leave. I'm considering finding an apartment near my parents' house where I can live with my daughter soon. Since then, I secretly contacted my father-in-law and asked him to visit us once without informing Kevin. Seeing him carefully and tenderly lift my daughter in his arms, I couldn't help but wish he could visit more often. He didn't take any photos of my daughter. He said if he took any, he might keep looking at them at home and then his wife and Kevin would find out. Instead, I took a lot of pictures of him and my daughter together. I plan to make an album and present it to him one day. I'm incredibly fortunate. I have the support of my parents and a job to return to. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if my morning sickness had been lighter and I had continued to live with Kevin. Would he have cooperated with me when childcare became difficult, thinking of our daughter and working together to overcome challenges? Would he have risked his own life to protect our daughter when danger loomed? When I think about this, I feel glad that my severe morning sickness exposed Kevin's true character early on. Maybe it was my daughter who made me aware of this. From now on, I plan to appreciate the kindness of those around me and move forward with my daughter, looking ahead.